djnet.tv at 9:30 p.m. East Coast time. You are seeing our bumper, but it gets better. We are recording. Standing by in our green room, and we have a chat room waiting to hear from said guest. So let's do this. Let's start the countdown to Studio 33 Alpha starting now. Well, good evening. Welcome. At least we're on time. It's and I think we're having internet problems or something out there, but we're starting on time, and it's always a pleasure to have a first-time guest come our way, and we're going to have even more later this week, starting tomorrow. Two get it, first-time guest. Anyway, Deena Adams is waiting for us in her green room to get switched on to the big screen. And Deena comes to us from her home in Virginia. Has that always been home to you, Deena?
No, actually, I grew up in Northwest Georgia, and married my high school sweetheart at age 18, and he was in the Navy, and so we traveled all over the United States for about 20 years and settled in Virginia.
Life is good, and it's. You've even spent some time in Florida, I believe you said.
I did. We lived in Florida 3 different times. The last time there, we were there for 4 years. That's the longest we lived anywhere until we moved here to Virginia.
The life of a military wife. That you could write a book on that. Deena,
exactly.
I'm going to get. Let's do a little warm-up question. It's a real soft, slow pitch. Okay, playing softball.
Okay.
I am going. We're going to play Guess Who Said It. Okay, so I am going to read you a quote, and if you recognize it,
man.
I want you. Now go ahead and get nervous. It'll be easy. Okay, if you recognize it, I want you to tell us who said it. But even if you don't know who said it, I'll tell you, and then I'd like you to comment on it because I found this quote rather profound. Here we go. The power of story breaks down barriers and reaches people with God's truth in a way that nonfiction ever could. So, Deena, do you recognize those words?
I sure do.
I'm glad.
I said those words.
You read your own website.
Yes, and I believe that's true. I heard a term in 2020 at a virtual conference that I attended, paper missionaries. And, the guest that you just had on before me talked about unreached people groups and going on mission for the Lord. And I've been on multiple mission trips myself. I've been to Africa several times. I've been to Moldova and the former Soviet Union. I've been to Guatemala and Honduras on mission for God. And I know, how important it is to share the gospel with people who don't know Christ. And I believe that we can do that through fiction books, believe it or not. I believe there's, a lot of people out there who, especially these days, won't step foot inside a church. Even Christians these days, a lot of Christians, proclaimed Christians, don't go to church anymore. But I believe people will pick up a fiction book and find truth in that book that talks about a situation that maybe they're facing, that they're going through right now, a difficult time. And they can find Christ there. They can find hope and answers that maybe they wouldn't find elsewhere. And so that's my hope. That's one reason that, it was a process for me choosing this tagline and, you have to branding and all this stuff as a writer and author, hope-filled fiction. It was kind of evolving to that work in progress for God to kind of lead me to where he wanted me to land in this fiction writing world, which is really new to me. I've only been doing this for about 3 years. So I've learned a lot in the process, and I really enjoy hosting other authors on my blog and interviewing them. I said I'm usually on the other side of this interview thing. I'm usually asking the questions and letting other people talk about themselves and their writing, which I love doing because I think getting the message out there in any way we can is important. So I'm all about supporting other people who are doing that.
Well, Dana, I'm proud of you. And you are quite the apologist for nonfiction writing as a means of sharing the gospel, but I am also a skeptic. Okay? So
Hmm.
help convince me, help win me over that with so much truth to be told, why then should we tell fiction? Let's just tell the truth. Wouldn't that be better? Win me over.
Well, okay. Well, I believe that there is truth in fiction. And the stories that I write and that I plan to write, the stories that I read that are fiction, have God's truth all throughout the stories. I read books about uh, marriages that are broken. You know, a husband maybe is having an affair or a wife's having an affair. How do you respond to that? How does a Christian respond when your spouse is unfaithful to you? How do you respond when your Christian child uh, runs off and gets pregnant? You know, when your husband is a pastor of the church and the daughter comes back pregnant,
Right.
what do you do with that? You know, you can read all kinds of nonfiction about that, which I have read, and they're very helpful. But what about that person who won't pick up that nonfiction book? What about that person who doesn't want to feel like they're being preached at, but they'll pick up a fiction book for
Mm-hmm.
entertainment, not
Mm-hmm.
realizing that in the midst of being entertained, they're going to find Christ. They're going to find the truth of the gospel woven into these hope filled stories. Um, I
Dana,
love nonfiction and fiction, but I just believe fiction can reach a whole group of people that won't pick up a nonfiction book or step into the church.
Dana, you are a champion and an apologist for nonfiction as a means of sharing the gospel, and those are you've made some great points. But I'm going to make one even better in your favor. You won me
Mhm.
over. Okay. Here's a compelling
Do you
thought.
read fiction?
I don't read much at all, but I tell you something I do read. I read the Bible, and I found that there's a character in the Bible that told stories that were fictional.
His name's Jesus.
Yes. So therein. But no, I have been a skeptic, honestly, when I first was introduced to the writing world. And I was video filming, not really film anymore, but you know what I mean, making videos of a conference where the one of the breakout groups was on non-fic, yeah, fiction,
Fiction.
fiction. And I'm just anyway, but I won't go into all that. I'm curious. I went to your website, which you know is kind of part of my job, but I went to
Hmm.
your website, strangely named
Yes.
DeenaAdams.com. I don't know where you came up with that, but congratulations, it's a great name, and
Very original.
there's only one. there's a, I keep seeing ACFW, and I
Hmm.
just have to presume that that has some meaning in your life, and I was hoping you could enlighten me a bit.
Yeah, sure. ACFW is American Christian Fiction Writers. And as I mentioned, I just kind of jumped into this writing world about 3 years ago. Um, and I, 2018, in the fall of 2018 was when I started this. And by January 2019, I had joined ACFW. And through this organization, I have made just multiple connections with other writers and authors and industry professionals. There is a local chapter in Virginia that I became part of, and I joined the Virginia chapter and became quite quickly the secretary on the board for the Virginia ACFW. I've been doing that for 2 years, and I'm about to start year three. And it's just a great opportunity to connect with other writers and people who are on this journey. Um, so, if I can, I'll share a little bit about why I started this journey and how this came about. Because, at my age, to start something like this, most people will start this publishing journey when you're young, in college or in your 20s. But I'm 58 and
Oh,
just starting to try to write and get published. Well, my husband's a pastor. He's been a pastor for 22 years, and we had our best friends and ministry partners for 17 years with us in our church. We had a falling out with them, and they ended up leaving our church, and our friendship broke
mm,
off. And it was a huge struggle in my life. I mean, I went through depression, and for 2 solid years, I really struggled with just finding joy in my life again and getting beyond this. And so I went to a biblical counselor and just to talk things out. And she gave me some great advice to try to seek God and what he might have for me in my life at this point. Something for me. Like, I spent 20 years following my husband around in the Navy. I raised 3 children. I got married at 18, so I never went to college. I never had a career. I was a stay-at-home mom, taking care of my home, my family, and everything. So I've spent really my whole adult life giving to other people and making sure that their dreams are
mhm.
coming true, and that they're getting to do what they want to do. So she said, find something for yourself. Find something that you enjoy and that you want to do. And so I started praying about it. And writing has always been a love for me, a desire that I've wanted to do. And each time I thought about going to college, taking classes for creative writing or anything like that, a need would come up for our kids, or, I had to pay for their college. So it just never happened. So finally, in 2018, I said, I'm just going to stick my toe in the water and see what happens, see if it goes anywhere. So I went to a local writers boot camp session in my area and tried out a few little things. And I got one little bit of encouragement from a lady there who said, I think you got some talent here. You should stick with it and give it a try. So I started searching online, finding free courses on writing, and I came across this thing called Nanowrimo. And I'm
Please
like, oh,
tell me
what is
what that
that?
is.
And I
What is
found
that?
out
Yes, tell me, please.
National Novel Writing Month. And we just had that in November. I didn't participate this year, but in 2018, it's where you write 50,000 words in 30 days. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to write a novel. And I had no experience, no idea what I was doing. So my husband bought me a laptop. I I bought a program called Scrivener where you write your manuscript in this program. So I'm learning how to use a Mac. I'm learning how to use Scrivener. I'm learning how to write a novel, and all these at one time. And I wrote the 50,000 words in 3 weeks. And at the end of 4 months, I had 120,000 words of a novel written. I started going to writers' conferences. I started entering contests and was part of a critique group. And so for 3 years, I really just immersed myself in this whole fiction writing world. And I just can't even describe how much I've learned. And Like the friends that I've made, I have a lot of online writer and author friends now, people I would have never known had I
Hmm.
not started doing this. And I really feel like I know them, even though we've never
I
met in
know.
person.
I know.
They're friends. I
Hmm.
consider them friends, brothers and sisters in Christ. It's been really cool.
All right, another quiz. Since we're in quiz game mode tonight, I'm going to read some names to you, and I want you to tell me what these names have in common. Okay? And I'm going to start with one I'm having trouble pronouncing. Miss Trump. Is it
Jenner,
Jennair Trump? Okay.
Jenner. Hmm.
Okay. Jennifer Chastain. Mary Felkins. Linda Shenton Matchett. Elizabeth, I guess it's Mitchell. Uh,
Hmm.
Katie Powner. And Jessica
Hmm.
Sly. That's not a random list of names. I got them somewhere. Where'd I get them?
You got them from the blog on my website, where I do author interviews. Um, I've interviewed all of those ladies, plus others. I started these author interviews just about a year ago. I told you it was kind of an evolving process, figuring out what my brand was and what my blog was about. And I've gone through several changes over the 3 years. And so it
We
was a
have to.
year ago. Yeah, it was a year ago that I started doing these author
Mhm.
interviews on
Mhm.
my blog. Some of them are Zoom interviews, which I really enjoy because we get to talk like we're doing now.
Mhm.
And then others are just written where
Mhm.
they answer questions, and I post that. Some are spotlights where we just spotlight their book that's just come out. I really enjoy featuring new authors, debut authors,
Okay.
maybe because I'm hoping to be one of those soon. I have a real
You're
heart for
making yeah,
helping them get the word out, about their book.
yeah, you're making deposits in hope of making withdrawal later on. You're making.
Well, that's not really the reason for doing it, but I do believe it's a biblical principle that you reap what you sow,
Mhm.
and you know, when you bless others, God blesses you in return. And so I've served on several launch teams for authors and, serving as the secretary for our Virginia board. I also started a writers group on Facebook called Marathon. If there's any Christian fiction writers out there interested, join the Marathon group for encouragement and support and networking and training. And I have a servant's heart anyway. As a Christ follower, I want to give more than I take. So I just believe that God will bless that in return.
You're pretty sharp, Deena. I tell you, I interview a lot of people, and over 200 have been on the screen here, and you're very sharp. You're very focused. Now, you alluded to something earlier that maybe you were questioning yourself, and I don't know if you still are, but even if you are, I can help you with that because you claim to be about
Hmm.
58 years old. I'm always a little skeptical of a female that claims her age, but let's go with that,
Yeah.
58. And you're being
Hmm.
asked the question, why this late season in your life
Hmm.
would you be starting something new? Well, I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
Good friend of ours, he's deceased now. At church, we used to always hang around out front. He was a smoker, so before church, he would be outside with the men, talking, and he was a real funny guy. Nason Revel was his name, and Nason he was very successful in his business, and he had built a home out in the country on some raw land, and he dug a pond, and it didn't rain. He went to all this expense to dig this fishing pond, and he's waiting on rain. So, well, he had the means to do it, so he drilled a well and filled that thing up. So somebody was kidding him, saying, "Nason, you just got too much money, that you can afford to fill up." He says, "No, it ain't that. At my age, I can't afford to wait around much longer." So, I too am embarking on new things in this late, in the autumn season, if it's not the fourth quarter of the game. And I find
Yeah,
myself driven by that same, urge, that same push, that same drive. Is there, there ain't that much time left, folks. At my age, I don't
right.
have time to wait around. So we need to get started right away.
Yes. And every
Somebody
day
might,
is a gift, and we got to take advantage of it.
let's pick on Mary Felkin. She's in our chat room. Welcome, Mary. Let's
Hi,
roast her.
Mary.
Tell us a little bit. You interviewed her recently, probably about, what, 5 or 6 weeks ago? For three,
Something
four,
like that.
something like
We
that.
actually got to do a Zoom interview together, which was fun.
Mhm.
One thing, I got to meet Mary in person in February. We both went to a writer's retreat in Lake Gaston, North Carolina. And so it was kind of fun getting to interview her after we had met in person. But we talked about her new book that's coming out. She writes Christian romance. And we talked a little bit about Donny Osmond in that interview, which was
That tells
fun
you.
because yeah, she had mentioned that in the questions that answers that she had sent back to me, and I thought it funny because when I was a kid, Donny Osmond was
The,
the thing.
the dream,
He
yeah.
was the dude that all the girls were in love with and had a crush on. So it was kind of fun, talking about that with her as we talked about her romance book. And you'll have to go back and watch her interview and hear her share her story about Donny Osmond.
I have a Donny Osmond story. I'm old. I'm old too. And it is a tradition where I went to school that the senior class puts on a play, a theatrical production as
Hmm.
part. That's just a tradition where I went to high school, and I was asked to do the skit during the intermission. Remember intermissions? Remember when those were a thing? So if you're at the
Yeah.
theater, you can go outside and grab a smoke. I
Hmm.
think or buy popcorn. That's what it was about.
Yeah, popcorn for me.
Yeah. Well, I at the time I was a very introverted. I mean, I was not. You know, well, I did the skit, and we did a skit on Ronnie Osmond. Now Ronnie Osmond is the fictional unknown brother in the Osmond family.
Yeah. Like,
But
who's
he
Ronnie? What?
he couldn't sing, he couldn't dance, and he had severe acne.
Mm,
It
poor
was,
guy.
it was, it's so I portray. Anyway, oh, the foolishness of our youth. But
Yes.
that's it.
Yes.
Deena, I'm just very glad that we intersected. I'm not sure how that happened. I see, but we've had some correspondence along the way on Facebook a long time ago, and we
Hmm.
just kind of fell through the cracks, or you did something.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we got back together. What happened? Did Barbara hit you up?
She did.
She is a
Yep, she
gunslinger,
did.
folks. She is. I'm telling you. Your
Yeah.
heart is for debut authors. Deena, listen, at any time you can come watch our programs, and if you see a debut author that you would like to connect with for your ministry, just feel free to contact Barbara or myself and ask for an introduction, and we'll be happy
Sure
to
will.
do that to help you along in your ministry. I've already written down several that I'll be hitting up that you know. So anyway,
Yeah.
but
And they're not just debut authors. I want to feature anybody on my blog who writes hope-filled fiction. That's
mhm,
really it. And I'm just open to even people who don't have books published. I've interviewed people on my blog who are not
mhm,
published yet,
mhm,
to help them build their audience and platform.
sure.
So,
Well, Deena, it's been a pleasure speaking with you tonight, and I am just thrilled. I'm glad to see somebody working as hard at this as I am. Because I can tell you,
it's definitely hard work.
people don't know, do they? They really
Oh
don't get
no,
it,
I
do they?
had no clue. I had no clue before I started.
Well,
wrote with.
that's probably a good thing. You might not have done it. But
Yeah, I might not have started, but I'm too deep in now to quit.
yep, yep. Well, Deena, it's been fun. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for pushing yourself and others, and motivating and being that encourager, that Barnabas, for writers who want to, well, spread some hope, spread some joy, and spread the
Yes,
gospel, even if it is fiction.
absolutely.
And we appreciate you
That's
sharing your
right.
story,
Even if it's fiction.
even if it's fiction.
Thanks
All right,
so much.
enjoyed
Thanks
it,
for
Deena.
having me. I really appreciate it.
I had fun. Thank you,
Bye
Deena.
now.
Wow, she's a smart girl. She good. She good. I know we're a little bit late, or running late, but there's something I got to share with you tonight or tomorrow night. Man, if two, not one, two first time guests. That's amazing. But what's even more amazing is they are both speakers at the PJNet first annual family reunion fundraiser rally get together God and Country hoedown shindig thing. Both of them are featured speakers. Our first one will be Dr. Jackson, who has published several books. But gosh, he's got so many stories. We're debating which thing to talk about, and that's at 9 o'clock tomorrow night. And then the next one is Carl Gallups, who has published more books than Custer had Indians. I mean, he is a, yeah, and I actually know Carl. He grew up in the same town. He was our interim youth minister for a while. So those two will be tomorrow night. If you're going to be blessed, I mean, it would be really, I would encourage you to join with us. Now, listen, that's done with a commercial, but I really think you're going to enjoy it. I hope you. And also, thank you, Barbara. She is our talent scout. She's out there combing the internet, finding interesting people to share their walk with Christ here on pjnet.tv. Don't know what we do without her. Don't want to find out. Two questions come to mind as we close. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? Second question. How long ago was that when you did it? Maybe you're not as old as I am, because I'm pretty old. Maybe you think you've got the rest of your life, and that's a long time. But there needs to be an urgency in sharing the gospel. So my hope and my challenge to you and to myself is whatever your answers are to those two questions, don't ever let yourself be satisfied with those answers.